Welcome back to the world of the story. Creeper, the story name, is the shadows beneath the floorboards. The rain lashed against the windows as a storm brewed outside the ancient manor. Lightning ripped through the sky, illuminating the sprawling house that stood like a sentinel in the darkness. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of old wood and something else, something foul, lingering like a whisper that refused to fade. Amelia walked slowly through the dimly lit hallway, her footsteps echoing against the creaking wooden floorboards. Every corner of the house felt alive, as if it watched her with unseen eyes. Her breath quickened as she reached for the brass doorknob of the study. She hesitated. Something about this room had always unnerved her, yet tonight, the pull was irresistible. The door groaned open. Dust particles danced in the flicker of candlelight as Amelia stepped inside. On the massive oak desk lay an old leather-bound journal. She opened it, and her eyes widened as she read the first line written in jagged ink. They will come for the floorboards. Do not let them speak. Her heart thudded violently. What did it mean? A sudden gust slammed the windows shut, snuffing out the candles. Darkness swallowed her. She froze, listening. Then she heard it, a faint whisper crawling from beneath the floorboards. At first, it was unintelligible, a soft hum, but then it formed words. Words that chilled her soul. Free us, she stumbled back, her foot pressing against the wooden planks. They shifted slightly, as though something underneath was pushing up. Her breath caught as she heard scratching, then pounding, like nails dragging against wood. She ran from the room, heart racing, the whispers following her into the hall. Every door she passed began to rattle violently. The paintings on the wall twisted, the faces inside them stretching into grotesque grins. Amelia sprinted to the staircase, but as she descended, the steps warped and groaned, splitting open to reveal blackness below. A pale, skeletal hand shot out, clawing at the air, inches from her ankle. She screamed and bolted toward the grand entrance, but the front door had vanished, replaced by a wall of rotting flesh pulsating like a living thing. She pressed her hands against it, gagging as it squirmed beneath her touch. From the other side came muffled cries, as if hundreds of people were trapped inside, begging to be let out. The whispers turned into a chorus of voices now, louder, angrier. You read the words. You woke us. Shadows leaked from the cracks in the ceiling, crawling like ink across the walls, taking form. Distorted figures with hollow eyes and mouths stretched open in silent screams. They reached for her, their touch burning like ice. Amelia ran into the dining hall, where a long table was set with decaying food crawling with maggots. The chandelier above began to swing violently, chains screeching. With a deafening crash, it fell, smashing inches from her feet, shards slicing her legs. Blood trickled, and the shadows writhed in delight. She stumbled toward the basement door. Maybe there was a way out. Maybe. She flung it open and descended into darkness, her hands brushing against damp stone walls. The air grew colder, thick with the stench of rot. Then she saw it, a pit in the center of the room, and around it, symbols etched in blood. Bones littered the ground. From the pit came a sound that made her knees buckle, a guttural growl, rising into a scream that pierced her skull. Two glowing eyes emerged from the blackness, and then a figure, tall, skinless, its limbs too long, its jaw unhinging as it whispered in a voice that shattered her sanity. "You belong to us now." The floor collapsed, plunging her into an abyss of writhing bodies, their hands tearing at her flesh as she screamed into the darkness. The last thing she heard before everything went black was the whisper of the floorboards closing above her, sealing her fate forever. And then silence. But the manor stood still, its walls whispering, waiting for the next soul to enter. And here is a second story, and this story will amaze you, okay? Let's start. Whispers from the attic. The rain fell softly on the cracked road as Clara's car crawled up the hill toward the old Victorian house. Its silhouette rose like a black skeleton against a bruised sky, windows hollow, watching her approach. She killed the engine, gripping the steering wheel for a moment before stepping out into the damp, cold night. The house smelled of decay and secrets. She walked inside, dragging her suitcase behind her. The wooden floor groaned like it was in pain. Cobwebs clung to the corners, dust thick enough to write names in. Clara's breath fogged in the air, even though it was summer outside. She saw an envelope resting on the kitchen counter, its paper yellowed, the ink jagged and uneven. Her hands shook as she unfolded it. "Do not go into the attic. No matter what you hear." Her lips curled in a nervous laugh, but her eyes lingered on the note longer than she wanted to admit. That was when the sound came, faint, soft, dragging across the ceiling above her head. She froze, heart thudding. For a long moment, there was silence. Then a whisper, barely audible, crawling through the air like smoke. "Clara, play with me." She stumbled back, scanning the empty room. Her chest tightened. It had to be the wind, just the wind. She locked her bedroom door that night, but sleep never came easy. The whispers returned in the dark, threading through the silence like needles through fabric. Scratching, tapping, the slow rhythmic creak of boards above her. Sometimes laughter, faint and high-pitched, like a child. She lay under the covers, wide-eyed, the shadows stretching long fingers across the walls. By the third night, Clara's nerves were frayed raw. She hadn't eaten, barely slept. The house felt alive now, pulsing with sound, its breath matching her own. When she looked in the mirror that morning, something was wrong. Her reflection smiled a second longer than she did. Her phone recorded while she slept, and when she played it back, her own voice whispered promises she didn't remember making. "Let us out. You promised." On the fourth night, the pounding started. Not scratching, not whispers, fists slamming against the attic door like something trapped, desperate to be free. She searched for the staircase, found it behind a wardrobe swollen with damp. A narrow set of stairs spiraled upward into darkness. Each step groaned beneath her weight, and the air grew colder, so cold her breath smoked in front of her lips. The attic door loomed at the top, locked with a rusted padlock, wooden planks nailed crudely across it. She touched the lock. It was warm. The laughter returned, loud now. echoing through the walls like a chorus of children. Clara screamed, swinging the hammer she had grabbed from the basement. Nails flew, wood splintered, the lock snapped with a sharp metallic cry. The door swung open into a yawning black void. The stench of rot poured out, thick and choking. Inside, she saw shapes, tiny shapes at first, hunched and still, then moving, twitching in unnatural spasms. The pale hand shot from the darkness and gripped her wrist with bone-crushing force. More hands followed, dozens of them, pulling, clawing, nails tearing skin as the whispering turned into shrieks of joy. She fought, screaming, but they dragged her inside, into the dark that swallowed light whole. The attic door slammed shut. Silence fell. The house exhaled once more. Weeks later, the property listing went up again. For sale. A perfect family home. Full of history. Waiting. If like my stories, kindly press like and subscribe button and also comment your story. Story number 3: The voices in the walls. The train tracks ended miles back, and now Daniel walked the last stretch alone, the cold night air pressing against his skin like a warning. His flashlight flickered, and in the distance, he saw it. The boarding house his uncle had left him in the will. A tall, skeletal structure with broken shutters and windows that glared like hollow eyes. The front door opened with a long groan, spilling dust into the beam of his light. The air smelled of mildew and something sweeter, like rotting fruit. He stepped inside and froze. The house wasn't empty. It was breathing. The walls swelled slightly, then sank, as though the entire building inhaled and exhaled. He told himself it was a trick of his tired mind. The hallway stretched into darkness. His boots thudded softly on the warped floorboards, and every sound felt amplified, bouncing from wall to wall like whispers. Portraits of strangers hung in crooked frames, their eyes glinting in the dim glow. He found a note on the entry table, written in hurried, slanted letters. "Do not speak to them. If they answer, it's too late." That night, Daniel lay in one of the upstairs rooms, the bed frame cold and stiff beneath him. The silence was thick. Then came the first sound, a faint scratching inside the walls, like nails dragging along wood. He sat up, heart pounding, listening. The sound moved, circling the room, then stopped near his head. A whisper seeped through the plaster, soft and urgent. "Daniel, I'm so cold. Please talk to me." His breath caught. It was a child's voice, trembling, desperate. He pressed his hand to the wall. It was warm, almost pulsing. "Please don't leave me. It hurts in here." He tried to speak, but stopped, remembering the note. He stumbled back, shivering. The whispers multiplied, voices overlapping in the walls. Some laughed, some cried, some screamed so faintly it made his teeth ache. By morning, the walls had changed. He saw indentations, as if faces pressed against them from the other side. Eyes bulged, lips twisted, mouths opening and closing in silent agony. When he blinked, they vanished. That night, the voices returned louder, more insistent, pleading for him to answer. They told him secrets, terrible things, things about him no one should know. He shoved furniture against the walls, but the whispers slithered through anyway, curling into his ears like smoke. He screamed at them to stop, and that was the mistake. The house fell silent. For one long breath, nothing moved. Then the walls burst open. Arms, thin and gray, shot out like roots, wrapping around his limbs, pulling him toward the cracks. Faces split the wallpaper, grinning mouths gaping wider than humanly possible. You spoke to us, Daniel. Now you stay with us, he fought, nails tearing, bones snapping, but the walls swallowed him slowly, crushing his screams until there was only silence again. The board sealed, the wallpaper smoothed. Only faint stains remained where he disappeared. Days later, a soft whisper seeped from inside the wall that it's so cold. Please talk to me. And the house waited. Story number 4. The Mirror Never Lies. Rain hammered the glass as Evelyn wiped the fog from her car window, staring at the decrepit roadside and rising like a carcass in the storm. Its sign dangled by one rusted chain, swinging in the wind with a slow, painful screech. She had no choice. Her car had died miles back, and this was the only light in the darkness. The inn's door moaned as she pushed it open. The smell of damp rot hit her like a wave, mixed with something sweet and metallic. Inside, the lobby stretched into dimness. A single bulb flickered weakly above a desk where an old man sat, head bowed. His skin looked waxy, translucent. Without looking up, he slid a tarnished key toward her. Room 6. End of the hall. She wanted to ask questions, but something about him, his stillness, the way his chest didn't seem to rise or fall, froze the words in her throat. She walked down the hallway, her boots sinking into carpet so what it squelched underfoot. The air was heavy and tasted like rust. When she opened the door, the room was small, suffocatingly so. A single bed sagged in the middle, sheets yellowed with age. And on the wall opposite the bed hung a mirror, tall, oval, its frame carved with twisting shapes that almost looked like screaming faces. The glass rippled faintly as though it were water. She dropped her bag and stared at it, uneasy. Her reflection stared back, but something was wrong. It smiled. She didn't. Evelyn stepped closer, heart pounding. Her reflection tilted its head slowly, unnaturally far, bones cracking like branches. Its lips moved soundlessly at first, then whispered, "Come closer." She stumbled back, shaking her head. Her reflection slammed its palms against the glass with a deafening crack, though the mirror didn't shatter. Instead, its surface bulged outward like skin stretching over bone. Fingers pressed against the inside, leaving greasy streaks. "Come in. It's warm here." She grabbed her bag, but the door slammed shut on its own, the lock clicking. The lights flickered and died. The mirror pulsed like a living heart, black veins spiderwebbing across its surface. Her reflection grinned wider, splitting its cheeks open to reveal jagged teeth, and then it began clawing at the glass from inside, leaving long, crimson scratches. "You can't leave now. You're already mine." The mirror cracked, not shattered, but opened. A cold hand, black and slick, shot out and seized her wrist, yanking her toward the glass. She screamed and fought, nails tearing against the wooden floor, But more hands followed, twisting and pulling her limbs at impossible angles. The glass rippled as they dragged her through, her body folding like paper, bones snapping one by one on the other side. There was only darkness and the sound of laughter. The next morning, room 6 was empty, the bed untouched, the mirror smooth and silent, reflecting nothing at all. But sometimes, late at night, if you stood in front of it and waited long enough, you could see her, pressed against the glass, her mouth wide in a scream that no one would ever hear. And if you looked too long, the mirror might smile back. Story number 5, The Forgotten Asylum. The night sky was a jagged wound of black clouds slashed open by flashes of lightning. A single van crawled along the broken road that snaked through the woods, its headlights weak against the consuming dark. Inside sat 4 figures, their faces pale in the glow of the dashboard lights. Ryan gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. He was the one who'd suggested this, the abandoned Blackthorn Asylum. Urban legends said it had been closed after unspeakable experiments, that everyone inside had died overnight. Some stories claimed their screams still echoed through the halls. "Tell me again," Zoe said from the back seat, her voice shaking more from nerves than the chill. "Why are we doing this?" Ryan smirked in the mirror, his brown eyes glinting with a mix of arrogance and curiosity. "Because it's content gold. A real asylum. Real horror. This will blow up our channel." Lena, sitting next to him, didn't look convinced. She hugged her jacket tighter. "Some places should stay forgotten, Ryan. There's a reason people don't come here." "Relax," Ryan said, turning onto the cracked driveway. "It's just a building. Nothing's gonna happen." The asylum rose ahead, massive and decayed, its silhouette like a beast crouched in the dark. Windows were shattered, their glass like jagged teeth. The front doors sagged on broken hinges. Above the entrance, the faded sign still clung to life. "Blackthorn State Asylum." N01 spoke as Ryan killed the engine. The storm howled, shaking the skeletal trees. They stepped out, their boots crunching on gravel slick with rain. Inside, the air was stale and heavy. Their flashlights cut across peeling walls scrawled with graffiti, old gurneys rusting in corners like skeletal remains. The smell hit them, mold, rot, and something faintly metallic. "God," Zoe whispered. "It smells like blood." Ryan laughed nervously. "Adds to the vibe." As they walked deeper, the silence grew oppressive. The buildings seemed to swallow sound, leaving only their footsteps echoing endlessly. Shadows danced along the corridor, stretching and twisting unnaturally. They set up the first camera in the main hall. Ryan spoke into the lens, his voice upbeat though his hands trembled. "What's up, guys? Tonight, we're exploring Blackthorn Asylum. Rumor has it, this place is haunted as hell. People hear voices, see shadows, even claim the dead walk these halls. We're here to find out the truth." The wind outside howled like a dying animal. Somewhere deep in the building, a door slammed. They froze. Ryan forced a laugh. Probably the wind. But his voice cracked as they continued. Lena kept glancing at the walls. The paint wasn't just peeling. It looked scorched in places, as though burned from inside out. And then she saw it, a set of scratches carved deep into the plaster. Words that help USH's stomach clenched. Before she could call out, the lights flickered. Not their flashlights, the emergency lights. For a split second, the hallway was bathed in sickly red glow. And in that moment, Lena saw them. Figures, dozens of them, standing motionless at the far end of the hall. When the light died, they were gone. Guys, her voice shook. We need to leave. Ryan scoffed, though his face was pale. Come on, Lena. There's nothing. The speakers from their recording equipment hissed. Then a voice seeped through, cold and wet, like breath against their ears. You came back. The sound came from everywhere at once. Walls, floor, ceiling. Zoe dropped her flashlight. It rolled across the ground and stopped at a pair of bare feet. The beam crawled upward, revealing legs too thin, skin gray and stretched tight. The figure leaned forward slowly, its mouth yawning open far wider than humanly possible. Then the lights died, and the screaming began.